our pledge leader for tonight, and I'm going to ask Ms. Murphy, SoCal's principal, to introduce our pledge leader for this evening.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. I am so honored to present one of our students, Emily Donaldson, to do our pledge this evening. Emily's waving at everybody. Emily is an amazing student at SoCal, and she just brings so much joy to all of us every day. I feel blessed because her mom happens to be one of our wonderful kindergarten teachers. So even through our closure, we get to see Emily every day with her mom, helping her in her classroom and doing such a fantastic job with her distance learning. So Emily, we are very proud of you.
Thank you, Emily. Why don't you go ahead and lead us in the pledge for tonight?
Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And put your right hand on your heart. Which hand? This one? Okay. Good job. You're doing great. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one
Nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job.
Thank you, Emily. So Emily, I have a certificate of recognition I am going to read out loud. I think you'll get a copy. So Emily Donaldson. I keep wanting to say Donnelly because I have a daughter named Emily Donnelly. So Donaldson. Mrs. Murphy, the principal at SoCal Elementary, has this to share regarding her student. Emily is a third grade student at SoCal Elementary School. Emily is in Miss Carver's class this year, and Emily brings sunshine and kindness to our school every day. And I tell you, Emily, that's a biggie right there. And with everything going on, we always need a big ray of sunshine. And I could tell you are one big ray of sunshine with that smile of yours too. Even though distance learning, Emily has a positive attitude and gives 100% effort each and every day. We are so proud to have Emily as part of our school. Thank you very much, Emily. And it's awesome to meet you. You're one awesome gal too. Now, do you have any interests that you like to do when you're not distant learning? Like what?
reading.
Perfect, okay. You read a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good, good. What do you like to read?
Harry Potter, Babysitter's Club, and mystery books.
Great books, good books. Any other board members have any other questions they would like to ask Emily? I know there's a little delay here.
I was curious to see what Mrs. Murphy was holding up.
I just took a picture of her.
Oh, I thought it was a certificate or like something. Oh, how funny. I'm having a day. Emily, it is so nice to meet you. My name is Amanda, and I don't know if you guys can see names on the screen. I haven't been able to figure out how to change my name. It also has my son's name, so that's an oops. But I see that your name on Zoom also has your mom's name, so that's pretty cool. Emily, do you like doing art? And if so, what kind of art are you interested in?
I like drawing.
Me too. I think it's pretty relaxing and fun. It's so nice to have you here. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Hi, Emily. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Jen. Thanks for being here. What do you like about helping your mom out at school?
I like giving her stuff that when she's sitting down and doing her work, I like to hand her like the stapler if she needs a stapler or something. and I hand it to her, or if she needs rubber bands or something, and I give it to her.
Oh, that's super nice and helpful. And one last question. Do you have a pet? I see an aquarium back there.
Oh, I actually have a lot of pets. I have a gecko, ice and cockroaches, and I have 2 fish. And I used to have a snake, but we gave her away because she's getting too big. And we have crickets because we feed the gecko crickets.
Yep, part of the lecture. All right, nice to meet you.
Thanks. Nice to meet you too.
All right. Well, with that, Emily, again, it's awesome to meet you. Keep up the good work and keep that ray of sunshine going, okay? Perfect. All right, so we're gonna move on with the meeting tonight. First of all, let's have a roll call. Linda? You're muted.
Hello, Trustee Rodriguez,
Here.
Trustee Jackson Miller,
Here.
Trustee Izan Gonzalez,
Here.
Trustee Friedman,
Present.
Trustee Donnelly.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move to adopt the agenda as it stands. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Amanda here, I'll make the motion.
Carolyn will
second.
Okay, let's see. The first one on the SoCal Squares was Carolyn. I think second was Phil.
No, I think Amanda was definitely first.
Oh, should we have a discussion about that? Okay, Amanda second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All righty. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as it stands?
I move.
Bill?
I'll
Second
second.
square?
Carolyn.
Carolyn, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Okay. Public communications. Do we have any public communications that we need to read?
President Donnelly, we received 5 emails
Mhm.
that I would consider constituting that, but they all pertain to one of the agenda items on COVID-19 and the related impacts.
Okay,
So it would be my recommendation that I read those emails during that item.
perfect. Okay. We'll wait for that item to read those emails.
Okay.
And then there's no other public communications that had come in at the last minute that doesn't regard to anything on the agenda? No, I don't.
Not to
see
my
so.
knowledge, no.
Okay. All right, let's move to standing reports. Let's start off with Michelle, right?
Yes, good evening, everyone.
All right.
It's been 3 weeks since we've seen each other, so it was one of our longer ones this time.
Mhm.
So much has been going on with everything. I just wanted to take this opportunity, if the board doesn't mind, for a few minutes to thank all of my staff and just kind of give you an update with each of their departments, what's going on. So in the business world, we've been working hard. I'd like to thank Allison and Robin and Yvette, working so hard on the audit, making sure everybody's getting paid and payroll, making sure all our AP runs are still running and all our vendors are getting paid, and doing that remotely has been a challenge, but they've seemed to have gotten into a great rhythm. So I'm super appreciative of everything that they do. Pam is working so hard. She's our go-to for all our ordering. She's done everything for all of our PPE and all of our supply and material kits for all the kids and teachers. And so she just does not stop until she gets the best deal. Let me tell you, I'll hear her on the phone for 20 minutes with a vendor arguing and saying, but you know what? This is for the kids. you sure you can't give us a deal? And in the end, she always gets one. So she's just awesome at everything she does for me. Also, I'd like to really thank our CNS staff as always, Kathy Giannini and her staff, Mario and Lupe and Karen and Jackie. She has a mighty staff of 4, but she is feeding all of our kids and getting those meals out. And with all the restrictions that they have right now, they're able to put together some hot and cold breakfasts and lunches and get them out. So she's super excited about that, being able to do some variety in what she's serving. And so they're working really hard over there. I think in September, we did close to 2,600 meals, and we're now able to serve breakfast and lunch on Saturdays and Sundays because she worked so hard to get that waiver provision passed. So her division is hard at work. And also we still have Second Harvest working with us. So that's been great too. Also in our tech world, George is on our call tonight, our meeting tonight, and George and Marla and Colin, they're a mighty staff of 3, work so hard with all of our tech needs and keeping up with everything. And we've had some discussions. You know, we are a tech department. Ed tech has not necessarily been the realm for the tech department, and they've just dived in there and they've been working with Jessica and her team and the teachers and trying to really get all of our apps and everything updated and just everything that goes along with that. So can't thank George and his staff enough because this has all been so new for them as well. And so they're always there. Steve and his crew of Craig and Dawn and Alex and John are out there working hard. They're able to get to some projects that we haven't been able to get to and do some maintenance on some things. Also, we're looking at starting to prep for the time when we all do come back and we're in the classroom and what we can do to do some upgrades to make sure everybody can come back safely. So they're in. Also, anytime I call and I'm like, I need the guys to go to Home Depot, we need 20 more spray bottles, like 10 minutes later, they're back with them. So I can't thank them enough. They're always there and available for us. Transportation, our bus drivers, Kathy and Tammy and Rick, they're amazing. Rick is our bus driver / custodian. He's in there every morning cleaning the district office, and he's amazing. And Tammy and Kathy are out serving meals at Emerald Bay. They've now started doing drops for materials. They're taking the stuff to the kids to their homes. So they're really excited. They get to see some kids again and interact with our families. And I know they miss their kids a lot. And so I'm very appreciative of everything that they've been able to do for us. And with that, we've also been working on, if you can believe it, first interim, which just seems like I gave you guys the budget and unaudited actuals, but in a couple of weeks here, you'll have our updated first interim. So with that, we're doing that as well. So that's my update for tonight.
Thank you, Michelle. Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Welcome from the educational services world. I, too, like Michelle, just want to express that in 3 weeks' time, it's almost like a year in the field of education. And I know that you all know exactly what I mean when I say that. And in the spirit of gratitude, I think it's extraordinarily important to, take a look at all that we're all doing right now. Our families at home, our teachers in their classrooms and at home with their students and their own children. We've got amazing Google Classrooms. We've got amazing Google Sites. We have amazing synchronous instruction and asynchronous instruction. And additionally, trying to collect data on what students' strengths are and where they need more support from us. And that's been really challenging for us in the distance learning atmosphere, but we're learning more and more every day about how to do that better and more strategically with intentionality. So I really want to thank our staffs for their amazing work. There is not one staff member that we have in this district that isn't just putting forth more effort than they ever should have to, but in such a valiant way. I also want to, talk about some of the things that they're working on in addition to what's happening in their classroom. And that's preparing progress reports and looking at data and kind of bridging out to asking for and offering support in terms of professional development and collaboration. their collaboration systems are above and beyond. And we're walking into our second professional development experience this year, our first in August, super successful. Our second one coming up this Monday, really focusing on English learners, trauma-informed care, differentiated instruction, lesson design, growth mindset, all of these amazing things, sandbox time, collaboration time. So it's been fantastic to get some feedback from staff, work deliberately with staff, and create some really great learning experiences for them coming up this Monday. And I'm really enjoying working with our new principal team, even though, you know, we've got some returning, we've got some new entries to that team. And anytime you have new entries to a team, you breed a new dynamic, which has been fantastic. And we're doing a lot of teaching and learning and growth with that team. And I'm really excited about what they are sharing with me as we prepare for their first evaluation meetings, which we actually have held in the last few days. And also really just working with them to build new, really strategic SIPSA plans and better preparation for family engagement to inform our LCAT as we're, you know, kind of looking at a new age of LCAT in our future for education. And so it's been really exciting to work with them on those fronts. And I would just, you know, say to the board, in many conversations that I have across the county, you know, we talk about what supports we have from boards and what we're able to do and what we're able to change in what we do with, I think, the full backing of a board that supports us so deeply. And so we do talk about that often. And I just want to thank our board for always speaking your mind and being honest, but also believing in us and valuing the work that's done. And I think just, you know, lastly, and from the educational services world, our world is completely different today. And we are learning as we go. Our digital platforms are far beyond what we ever expected, and the learning that goes beyond that. And I want to bridge that to the conversation that Michelle started with, and that was the establishment of our ed tech branch of our district. And I really want to thank that team. George is here, Colin, also member of that team, Christina Hadrius, also really trying to build and bridge this ed tech world that we now live in. So just want to thank that team as well. And that's pretty much it for Ed Services today.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Scott.
Thank you, Ted. And just want to piggyback on what Jessica said about the support and engagement of the board. Couldn't do this work without a supportive board. So it's greatly appreciated. And just also want to say how much I appreciate both Jessica and Michelle's work and the pride they take, not only in their work on both sides of the district's house, but in how much pride they take in their staff and how much they seek to hear input and ideas from their staff. It's just very rewarding to work with two professionals like them, experts in their fields, respectively. So I'd also like to express my appreciation for all staff and students who participated in Monday's World Day of Bullying Prevention by wearing blue, and for the board by doing the same tonight. I also want to thank President Gordon Barrett and SEA unit members for coming to agreement on a memorandum of understanding for in-person student assessment for special education. I'm confident that what we have and the time we invested in it will make our assessment process that much stronger. I also want to thank SEA for inviting Michelle, Jessica, and myself to the last chunk of their monthly meeting on this past Monday, as become our custom. I appreciated that dialogue, and there's so many challenging and complicated issues. But as the CTA rep for our region who was at the meeting, Sue Midori Jones, stated, the most important thing is that we're having the dialogue and that the channel of communication has remained wide open. Moving to a separate subject, we're now fully engaged with Nicole Anderson and Associates, digging into our district's work on racial equity, one of our top goals for this year as a district. For example, this past Monday night, our Racial Justice Task Force held their first meeting with Nicole, which I attended, and I can safely say that the members found the work extremely meaningful. Of course, that task force has stakeholders from the teaching ranks, classified ranks, parent ranks, administrator ranks, and of course, board members. The team also discussed the possibility down the road of including in a proper format some students. Nicole followed that up by meeting with our administrative council, ADCO, yesterday, and leading us in our first session by setting the tone for the rest of the year and doing a few different projects yesterday and about how the same problem might be looked at differently from different groups and how to make that an asset rather than a deficit. A week from tonight, of course, Nicole will be leading this governance team in a board workshop. And I just want to say again that I'm extremely proud of our district for tackling this most important work and on 3 different levels so we can have the best chance to proliferate that work across the entire school district community. Finally, we have some town halls coming up. You can find information on them on our website and our Facebook page. And the information has been sent out via email and text. The October Town Hall series starts on October 13th at 3:15 with a staff town hall, followed that same evening at 6 p.m. with a Spanish town hall for Spanish-speaking parents. And then on October 15th at 6 p.m., we'll host the English version of the parent town hall. And that's my report.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Do we have anybody from CSB or CSEA here tonight to report out on? Or anything you want to state, Scott?
No, I didn't get anything to state, and I don't see anybody that's requested to get on the meet to make a statement.
All right, thank you. SEA, do we have anybody? Gordon, there you are. Boy, you just jumped around with Georgia. There you are. Gordon, hi.
Hey guys, thanks once again for inviting me. Thanks, Scott, for what you said about the MOU. I completely agree. I have a lot of confidence in that MOU that we agreed to. I think we put a lot of thought into that to begin in-person assessments. SEA met on Monday, like Scott said. We talked about that MOU. We also looked at the results of a survey we did about the idea of small group cohorts. And so just to summarize, about 70% of teachers were in favor of, sorry, not teachers, SEA and CSEA members, this was a joint survey, we're in favor of doing a task force on small groups. And so we're going to go ahead, and I'm asking for volunteers right now from SEA members to volunteer and help us serve on that task force. And we also looked at, we also discussed some concerns some teachers had around the middle school schedule. We talked about an update from our elections committee, and we looked at the agenda of the Racial Justice Task Force.
All right, thank you, Gordon. All right, let's move on to trustees. Anybody want to jump in? Bill.
So I have nothing to report. I just want to thank Scott and staff. All of this internal stuff that you're doing to make things operate on all the different levels is amazing to me. At the same time, you're having to look over your shoulder to see what's going on at the county level, at the state level, and depending on the time, what CDC had to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Let's see, I'll just go by the square here. Carolyn, do you have anything to report out on?
Yes, so I attended several different meetings. I attended Children's Network meeting, and they had a presentation about programs specifically targeting youth homelessness in our county. I also attended the Santa Cruz Gardens Parent Town Hall, and I started the first course in the Master's in Governance, which comprises 5 courses. So last week, along with our own Linda Jacobs, we participated in the first course that talks about effective governance and setting direction for the district. There's a lot of useful information, a lot of food for thought. And last but not least, I attended the Racial Justice Task Force as well, with a lot of meaningful discussion, and I'm excited to be part of the task force. That's it for me.
Thank you. Amanda.
Congratulations, Carolyn and Linda, for starting Masters in Governance. It's a very, very meaningful program, and it's wonderful that you could dedicate the time to doing it, especially right now with our state of the world. And it certainly wouldn't be quite the same as doing it with the in-person meetings, but also I think you'll get a really interesting perspective and a lot of great information. So I'm really glad you guys are both able to do that. As far as meetings I've attended, I also attended the first meeting of the Racial Justice Task Force. I'll be sharing a seat with Jen so that we only have 2 board members at any given meeting. So I got to attend this first meeting and was really impressed with the consultants we're working with, and of course with the great representation we have with various stakeholders at the meeting. And you know, we had an opportunity to share a fair amount, and I think there was so much for people to be excited about. And I think, you know, maybe the one fear that a lot of people expressed was, well, I hope this isn't just kind of a one-time thing, you know, that we're doing this because it's at the, you know, at the forefront right now. It's such an important issue right now, and that this is something that just goes away. And so many people care so deeply about our district and our future and long-range planning. It was really impressive to see, and I'm very, very proud of our commitment on that issue. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Amanda. Jen? Hi.
Hi. So I was able to attend my first virtual parent-teacher conference this week that we're starting, and I have my other child's conference tomorrow. And so I just want to say how thankful and grateful I am to all of the education staff that are working so hard at our schools during this time. And so it was really nice to hear those words of gratitude from administration right now. And just as a parent, it's definitely felt everyone's trying their hardest. It's not a perfect scenario by any means at all, but it's been, but how hard my kids' teachers are trying is very obvious. And I know everyone is as well. And yeah, 3 weeks went by really fast. On Monday, I was able to participate in my first COVID test through my work through Santa Cruz County Office of Education. And I know Scott will talk about this later. Received results in less than 2 days. And it was very interesting to be a part of, you know, this process of getting that, you know, happening. And so, yeah, it was much better doing it yourself than having someone else do it to you. I'm just going to say that because I've done both tests, and if you do it on yourself, it's a lot easier. So that's it.
Thank you, Jen. I have not attended any meetings. Although, first off, I really, again, want to thank the teachers and the staff for the wonderful work they're doing. It continues not to be an easy task. And our teachers and staff are really plugging through what is going on today with virtual learning. I know there's been ups and downs. There's been talk of opening and other districts opening, and I know it's confusing. However, you know, thank you again for the teachers and staff for what they're doing. Thank you for wearing blue tonight, because Monday was a day of bullying prevention. And that is a very important topic to me. And so things are better than the 60s and 70s. However, you know, there's still bullying out there. And thank you for wearing blue. And with that, let's continue on. And I think we got everybody. We're going to go on the presentations, and we
President
have
Donnelly,
yes.
just out of respect for the person that is waiting, the moderator, George Lopez, did let us know that a parent is waiting for public comment. And I am anticipating
up.
I'm anticipating that the comment may be on COVID-19 impact and distance learning, but I don't want to make that assumption for the parent. And so perhaps we can ask whether they feel inclined to make the comment now or on that item.
Are they here right now?
Yeah. Yes,
Hi.
it's Ash Moran.
It's actually Marcella Moran, but Cash is my son. I don't know how to change his name on Zoom.
Well, hello.
Okay. Many of us
Hello.
have that.
So are you going to speak on the presentation, or do you have something that's not on the agenda?
I just wanted to comment on distance learning and just kind of, I don't know how much you've heard from parents about how it feels and what it's like. And I just wanted to offer in our household what it's been like, and our gratitude towards the teachers, but also our desire to return to in-person learning.
So there is an item on the agenda for that, but that would be the president's discretion whether to have that.
Yeah, let's if you could, we're gonna have a presentation, and then after this presentation, we're gonna move on to distance learning. And so I'd appreciate your comment during that time, if you could hold out.
Yep, I can wait.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to 5A, which is our presentation from Nikki Bryant. Scott, do you want to introduce her?
Yes, definitely. So I'm so excited to have Nikki here. Just a very brief background. I think the board would remember that last year, 2019-20, before any of us started talking about COVID, the city of Capitola worked with us to identify a need for middle school childcare. We kind of have Campus Kids Connection as a key partner for elementary, but there was a bit of a gap there for middle school, and they stepped in to fill that gap, which was very admirable. And we just really appreciate the collaboration, mainly in their desire to see what needs we have in our community and our school community. And so that went into place last year very successfully. And then, of course, this year is a completely different year. And we formed a childcare task force because we realized it's one of the most complex, if not the most complex, issues related to any kind of distance learning. And Nikki sat on that task force with us and really heard the unique needs of our families. Given at that time, we started talking about hybrid, and then we moved into a full distance learning model, as you'll remember. And out of that came the out of school time program. So I'm going to turn it over to Nikki, but I just wanted to start with that to say thank you that this has all been an effort, not just to provide a random program, but to really listen to our needs and collaborate with us. And we just really appreciate the collaboration. With that, I will turn it over to Nikki.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for that background. I had actually forgotten half of that. As you know, everything changes in a few weeks. You just kind of deal with what's right in front of you right now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to get this slideshow that I have prepared for you all running. And all right. Well, thank you. So like Scott said, my name is Nikki Bryant. I work for the city of Capitola. I head up the recreation department, and building off of our partnership for our after school rec club that was based at New Brighton Middle School. And then with the introduction of this new need thanks to COVID. We developed the out of school time program, or OST for short. And so I'm not sure, I'll do a little bit of background because some people are interested in it. Why out of school time? So for a lot, it's kind of like a category of education. If you're talking about camp programming, if you're talking about being out of like after school programming, or anything that isn't in school is kind of filtered under that out of school time, OST. And so that's where the name came from. I often get those questions. But to begin with, the program that we were working on started with based on the health requirements from our county health officer. And then most of these were then later incorporated into what is now also now required for the Department of Social Services. And that is 12 students per room per pod, up to 4 stable staff assigned to each pod. Now, the Department of Social Services actually states that it's 16 individuals. So you could potentially have 14 students if you had 2 stable full-time staff, but that can be a challenging staffing situation. So we operate with a maximum of 12 students and have the 4 stable staff, and which could be for part-time staff or could be 2 full-time staff, or a little bit of a combination. So that's kind of just the basic formula, is a maximum of 16 people. Each pod is assigned to a specific room and a bathroom at the site that they are at. If you, as you guys know from school, school planning for blended learning, you need to have, if you change groups of people in a room, you need to disinfect that room. And so this program was really set up with the idea that we're just going to have a set, stable room that each pod is going to be assigned to. And so in order to accomplish that, I needed to partner with some organizations, New Brighton Middle School also, in order to kind of expand the numbers that we would be able to provide, because the community center only has 3 rooms. If you are some of the people that remember being in the community center, some high school dances, middle school dances, I believe, used to happen in there. So, excuse me. Pods do not mix with other pods, both in activity or rooms or anything like that, and created what is a distance learning classroom. And when the school time is over, the students then shift to a recreation activities, and those recreation activities are based on educational themes and have some kind of skill building designed with it. Like I said, we operate at 3 sites. We operate out of the Jade Street Community Center. We are also operating out of the Shore Life Community Church, which is just down the street from the district office. And then we also have 1 pod at New Brighton Middle School. For a total of 6 pods, for a total of total capacity of 72 students. In planning for each pod, we divided up the grade groups to have a cohorting. And so we did Soquel Elementary, K through 2nd, Main Street Elementary, K through 2nd, Soquel 3rd through 5th, and the Main Street 3rd through 5th, which is now becoming a blended, because we had a higher demand for Soquel 3rd through 5th. So that pod has also enrolled Soquel students in that pod, because there was a higher demand there. And then we have a Santa Cruz Gardens pod, which is a full school, K through 5th. And then we have 1 New Brighton Middle School pod. The enrollment for all of these is looking really great now. Each one of the elementary school of Soquel and Main Street only have 1 space left. We have the Santa Cruz Gardens has I believe, 4 spaces left. And the New Brighton Middle School pod is the one pod that it has plenty of space left. I believe we currently only have 3 or 4 students enrolled in that pod, and we're doing some pointed outreach to the principals of those schools in order to see if we might be able to do a little bit of recruitment. So far, as we've been operating in September, the September enrollment was significantly down. It was at a 50%. When we had first started enrollment in August, that enrollment was a bit higher, but the scholarship fund that we had acquired was not enough. We partner with the Capitola Foundation, and they review our scholarship applications and make those awards. And in order to kind of stretch those dollars as much as we could for September, for some families, the award was not as big as they had hoped it would be. And so we lost some enrollment based on that. And in effort to try and increase enrollment and make it more affordable, because it is currently $34 a day for elementary students, which is one of the more expensive programs. The city of Santa Cruz, county parks, and a lot of other similar type programs are subsidizing their programs. And so we're currently operating at one of the highest fees for our programs, as our council had directed that we would be offering this program at a revenue neutral, so that as long as it was just paying for itself, we wouldn't put any administrative cost in there, and that was how the fee was based. So in order to continue to reduce the fee and make it more affordable, I explored a partnership with county parks, and we have successfully entered into that partnership, and I'm going to get into more details here in a minute. One of the other challenges and opportunities that we had was that for September, there was a pretty fast learning curve for recreation staff in order to manage many different students' schedules. There was a lot of learning on how having the kindergartners in the same pod as the 1st and 2nd graders, where there is a pretty big difference there, how to manage those educational needs. It was also a bit of a challenge in how to do a 3-way communication between recreation staff, teachers, and parents, and all in order for everybody to kind of come together and support the educational needs of the students. And so over the course of the month, we have developed a lot of strategies and began to implement those strategies in order to try and get this to have a nice new rhythm in these rooms, and have seen a lot of these strategies have success, which is great. So entering into that partnership with county parks, and the whole reason why this was even a conversation was because, as many of you know, the county received significantly more CARES Act funding, and county parks had the authority in order to support school-age childcare programs. And so entering into the partnership, participants are effectively registering with the county for the next 3 months, for October, November, and December. And those participants will pay $400 per month for the program, whether they are residents or non-residents, and which is a 41% reduction in cost and fees. Additionally, anybody who is on Medi-Cal or CalFresh or WIC, they only pay $100 for the month. And then anybody that is through the CalWorks childcare program, those participants do not pay anything to be part of the program. The CalWorks childcare aspect existed before the partnership, So that was something that we were also able to work with, but it's just kind of being rolled over now. And then for these next 3 months, county parks will be reimbursing Capitola for the expenses incurred, which, like I said, is basically the cost of the program. So it's the staff that are working with the youth and basic program expenses. So moving forward with the partnership and scholarship, we are starting to really think about what's going to happen in January. If OST needs to continue, whether it is supporting some kind of blended learning or whether it is still that we're doing distance learning, the funding, or basically to pay for the staff in order to support the kids, that fee is going to need to be either increased again back to the original rate, or we need to have some other solution. So for now, the families that received scholarship for September in our program, we are holding back any of the current available scholarship fund, as everybody that had received scholarship, now that they're receiving the county fee, they're actually paying less than had they received the scholarship and had a reduced fee already. So we're holding back that scholarship, and they're perfectly happy because they're still paying less. And we've let everybody know that we're holding on to it so that we can ensure that we have funds to attempt to reduce the fees for January through May, depending upon what we're doing. In order for the city to provide the county fee rate for January through May, the city would need to operate at a loss of about $98,000. And so holding back that scholarship fund ensures that we have at least $30,000 of that $98,000. And are hoping to find other areas for that kind of fill in, so that ideally what we would be able to do is just funnel any funds that we have into in order to offset the loss and just maintain the fees that we are currently charging for October through December, so that the families don't experience any change. They stay enrolled, they're at the fee that they're at, and then they can plan on that through the rest of the school year. If we're not able to hit that goal of that $98,000, then we will be treating it as a traditional scholarship fund and identifying the individuals with the highest need as possible. And hopefully the individuals that are enrolled will be able to see if there are any other resources in the community, or do a little bit of potential financial planning. But that's what we're hoping to be able to provide, is just maintain the same fee rate that we are currently providing for the next 3 months. And with that, I am available for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Has there been outreach, for example, for our students who could qualify for CalWorks childcare? Has there been outreach for those populations to let them know that they wouldn't have to pay anything, for example, and maybe also the Medi-Cal, CalFresh, and WIC eligible students?
Well, yes. Right now, like I said, we have space available in our Santa Cruz Gardens pods and our New Brighton Middle School pod, quite a bit of space. And so we're doing some outreach to the principals in those schools and letting them know the current fee structure, kind of where we're at, and where individuals that are in any programs could see benefits, in order to just encourage them to take the step, right? I know that I'm sure that there are parents or teachers out there that are seeing some of their students and would really like for them to be in a nice consistent space as they're doing their distance learning. And as I would anticipate based on seeing from the other side of our distance learning classrooms. And so we're hoping to be able to kind of target those individuals and help funnel students into the spaces that we have. For the other pods, we only have one space, and they keep going every day. Every day they disappear. So I anticipate that one remaining space in the other 4 pods will probably be gone by the end of the week. But please, if you know anybody, let us know. We've also so the Boys and Girls Club also services this area, and the boys, and now we have finally hit a price point that is similar to the Boys and Girls Club. But the boys, and they have a wait list, a really long wait list. And so I meet with their director, and they are keeping an eye out for anybody that is in the school district and encouraging them to transfer over to our programs since we have space available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
No question from me. Just a thank you. I'm really thrilled that we have this partnership and that we are able to offer this to our families.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting to have this program operating. It's different to have this during the school year, and I personally enjoy it. But it's also interesting because we're used to camp, right? When it comes to kids being around the community center, we're used to camp and we're used to like all this loud, fun play. But in the morning, it's quiet and because they're all in school. And so it's like, it was this eerie adjustment in the beginning of September where we know there are kids around, but it's so quiet. That's so strange.
I would just like to add on, if it's okay, that there is a related but separate item later in the agenda. It's an action item, and it will address the possibility of contributing towards that fee structure that Nikki outlined for us. And Nikki, I have to say that hearing those words that of approaching a price point similar to Boys and Girls Club just is really music to my ears. So thank you.
Jen?
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Nikki. A little delay here. I know Jen had something to say.
Oh no, Nikki. What?
All right, Nikki. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you. It has been my goal from the beginning to be able to make this an affordable solution for the families that need it. And I have just appreciated the number of people that have really come together in order to try and make this be what it is. And we are nothing without community. So it's great to see all the pieces that are pulling together and how we can all get through this incredibly challenging time together.
Thank you, Nikki. And I just want to say on a personal note, definitely been involved since the beginning with my kids, because if you know me, you know I'm a full-time administrator and full-time student, and my husband is a full-time court school teacher on Zooms all day and facilitating meetings with 85 people or 10 people and having my kids. It's an experience I know a lot of people are having, and it's heartbreaking, and I know it very well. And so when we were able to put our children in this program, which we call school camp, by the way, that's our nickname. Out of school time doesn't make sense to my kids. So to try to help my 5-year-old understand that this isn't school, but it's school camp. And so it has provided something that was so desperately needed. And I'm just very thankful that it's affordable now and open to others. Although now that it's full, I saw my son's cohort go from 3 to 5 to now 12. And so, and seeing it each day. So now we hit this point where we're saturated, and how do we move forward with this? But want to honor the work and the counselors. You know, we have Lorena, Dylan, just so many amazing, Kieran, so many amazing camp counselors from Camp Capitola who the kids even knew before. So those young hard workers there are really doing such a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It sounds like a great program. I just have to ask you, you used the word stable staff. Can you just define what a stable staff is for people who are listening?
Well, particularly as it's defined as a staff that doesn't change groups.
Okay.
So that person is assigned to the group, and that they will be assigned to that group until they no longer work for Capitola, or they go through a particular protocol in order to be reassigned to a different pod.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
If there's no other questions, do we have any public comment or questions on this?
I have none from text.
None from email.
No one else on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nikki. And thanks for all the work you're doing too. It sounds like a great program.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your support.
All right, now we're going to move on to 5B, which is we're going to have discussion regarding COVID-19 and distance learning. I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
Thank you, Ted. So obviously, this is the driving item in our whole educational community right now. COVID-19 and all the related impacts, included distance learning. And I just want to acknowledge that we do have the member of the public wanting to comment on this item, as well as some emails related to this item. So Ted, did we take those after I speak about it, right? For some reason, the order just eluded.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, actually the order is, and I meant to state that, but it's a presentation.
Okay.
And then the board will be able to ask questions, and after that is the public.
Okay, and so that way members of the public waiting will know that their moment is coming soon. So in relation to COVID-19 and everything, distance learning, the group of superintendents in our county continue to meet twice weekly to consider all things related to COVID-19 and the impacts to our school system. We really work to be informed by data and science. Currently on the governor's blueprint for a safer economy, Santa Cruz County remains at the red or substantial level. That Watsonville post-acute center outbreak has been a major factor in recent increases in the data for hospitalizations and unfortunately COVID-related deaths. While we monitor the data, there continues to be one driving question, really, and that's, when are kids coming back to school for in-person learning? And I just think it's important just to acknowledge that very bluntly and very simply, that we know that that's the question, and it's the question for us too. It's safe to say that all stakeholder groups want the same thing, and that's students on campus for in-person learning. We're committed to that goal, and we're equally committed to doing it safely. So in that vein, I mentioned our agreement to begin bringing students back for individual student assessment for special education. Granted, that's one student at a time, but it is bringing students back on campus for a very meaningful and necessary endeavor. We're currently in the midst of forming a task force that I mentioned earlier, designed to identify how to safely bring prioritized small cohorts of students back to campus. And should the data allow us, we'll begin to unfurl all those hybrid plans that we very painstakingly built in the summer, along with lessons learned from our own in-person summer school, so that we can move in that direction. That last piece, the hybrid model, would not happen until January of 21 at the very earliest. In one of our first communications as a superintendent's group on this subject, we made the statement that any large number of students coming back to campus for in-person learning would be, and the quote was, unlikely before January. And we've stuck to that. this next month of analyzing the data and working with our task force will be really critical to make decisions moving forward in a way that is timely for parents and staff. I wish that there was more certainty than that I could offer at this time, but it's just not the nature of the virus and its impacts to allow for that certainty at this time. I look forward to continuing discussions on these topics at our town halls next week. Some of the key variables related to COVID-19 and distance learning have been identified as childcare and surveillance testing. And we just had a discussion on one way that our district and a community partner has tried to address childcare. And then Jen mentioned earlier about surveillance testing. These aren't easy issues to solve, but I'm proud of the work that we've done, especially on that childcare end. And then, as you know, or has been mentioned, we have the surveillance testing now up and running, and that's a big kudos to the County Office of Education, who did the real legwork on getting an agreement with Stanford Medicine in place for COVID-19 surveillance testing. The system for testing that has been put into place will have a North County and South County location. So it's a really complex undertaking because it's the county and all the public school systems. So we're talking over 4,000 public school employees dispersed over 10 districts and the county office. Those employees all need to be tested once every 2 months, and then it restarts. Our district has been working with the COE to pilot the program. And much like Jen today, for example, personnel coordinator Sandy Figueroa and I were both tested. Our district nurse, Vicki Grisham, was there today when I was tested, and we were able to compare notes on the process. As mentioned, the tests are self-administered. This was really good for Sandy and I to be able to have a personal account, to be able to share with others. We've had several people volunteer. Over 25 people volunteered to be part of the pilot. There's actually fewer slots than was anticipated, so we have more volunteers and slots. Not to get too far into the details, but these are the kind of things we'll be sharing with our staff. For me, there was a momentary odd sensation when inserting the testing wand. My eyes watered a little bit, but not something that I would personally describe as pain. Now, that being said, I realize that like any medical procedure, each individual will have a different reaction. I will just say simply from going through this hands-on that knowing that I'm not a carrier was more than worth the effort. And results, as Jen said, are said to come back in 48 days, or 48 hours. Sorry. I guess finally on this, I would just encourage all members of the public to continue to check our website for the latest information on COVID-19 related impacts and distance learning. Our webmasters have created that light box, which is the first thing that pops up before you can really even go into a website for our district or site. And in there, it's everything related to updates from myself and the other county superintendents, school meal updates, distance learning updates, and more information. I know this is a challenging time. We do want students back on campus. We're just committed to doing it cautiously and based on science and data, and doing it right. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Ted.
All right, thank you. First, I'm going to turn it over to the board for any questions from the board. Okay, Amanda.
Sure. It's funny. I had a test today as well, but it was not self-administered. So, but you know, just as a routine thing. Yeah. So I'm interested in learning more about the path with the agreement with Stanford Health countywide, and I think you mentioned the idea is it would be a cycle and employees are tested every 2 months. Is that correct? I mean, I'm assuming, right? If they didn't have any symptoms, if there were symptoms, that would be a different story.
Asymptomatic. Yes, that is correct.
At some point earlier, there'd been, maybe even months ago, there'd been discussion, I think, around I think they call it batch testing. I'm not sure, but like having a big group tested, and then if the entire batch comes out positive, then you have individual tests. Is that now gone by the wayside because we have a different plan in place?
Yeah, so I don't know if I would or would not say by the wayside. I think that that's kind of been maybe shelved for now. And that surveillance testing gives us a better chance to make sure that any employee who either is or may be engaged in on-site or direct interaction with students will always be in a cycle of testing. Perhaps at that time I might venture to say it was hard to even envision with the lack of testing resources that this might be an option. And so it just really seems like this surveillance testing is a big win. I always see childcare and testing as two of the really tough things to figure out, and we certainly haven't figured them out, but we're getting closer.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Phil.
Is the district required to report any infections that we find from our testing?
So, of course, always being confidential and sensitive to HIPAA. If there were to be a positive test, there are protocols to follow. We've had a positive test in the district before, and we're able to work through contact tracing and working with our county health department to make sure all steps were followed and that the person was able to quarantine, and we got through that process successfully, and we would follow a similar procedure.
There we go, unmuted. Okay. So when you do the self-test, it's up the nose still?
Yes. While I was talking, I was trying to think of a more.
I couldn't put it any other
there's
way
no
to
other
do
kind
it,
of way to
so.
say it, is there? Yes, it's in each nostril. Yes.
And you have, okay, because I thought they were going to start going to a mouth swab at some point.
That's, I have, heard that, but I can say from the hands-on experience right now, it's definitely in each nostril, and supposed to get the results back within 2 days. So it's so much better than where we were just a short time ago.
Right. So you mentioned about possibly the soonest we would go to in-class learning with a hybrid is January 21st. At this point, are there any public schools in our county that are in-class learning?
In a hybrid model, for example?
Hybrid, I'm sorry, yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. And then with that, I don't think we have any. Oh, Carolyn, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had a question about social emotional well-being of our students. Has there been a formalized way of assessing that? I mean, I know that teachers are trying to be in tune with that, but has there been a more formalized assessment of that, or also involving the parents? Sometimes it might be difficult to gather that information from the students directly, especially with the young ones.
Our director of student services, Eric Olson, is on the call. So if he wants to chime in on that, I'll welcome him to do that. I would not say that there's been a formalized assessment, although our counseling staff have made themselves readily available to families that need them. I think Eric may be looking for.
Go ahead, Eric.
It seems like forever when you're looking for that mute button.
I found it. Yeah, our counseling department. We're looking into a universal screener through Pearson Learning, and it's called Review 360. And it's going to be interesting data. And the younger grades will get a parent survey, and then the students who are older will get their own survey. And then they will then we'll look at the data and see how kids are doing.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we do have a member of the public who would like to speak, and then the rest we're going to read emails. Okay. So we'll go with Miss Moran. I know your first name's not Cash.
Thank you. It's Marcella.
Marcella. Okay.
And I appreciate the time. We've had 3 kids go through the district, and I appreciate all of the work. I know this is really hard, and I know the teachers are working really hard. And I didn't know if you've heard from parents speaking to what you were just talking about, but in my experience, I have a 12-year-old that used to love school and dreads every single day of this. It's really hard. It's boring, and it's not at the fault of the teachers. There's just no interaction. There's no social component. And I hear you, and I know it's really important that we return safely. I just want to speak to the parents who feel like it's of the utmost priority that we balance this safe return and understand that this distance learning is not an adequate substitute for in-person learning. That I can't even imagine. I'm able to stay home. I can't even imagine the kids that don't have the support system that my son has. I think it's going to be shocking. It is really hard for me to watch him go from loving school and learning to where he's at now. And I'm happy to hear everything I did. One of the things that's really important for me as a parent is if there's a chance we won't be going back in January, I would rather pull my son out now, because I think it's that harmful. The screen time is so long. Some of the teachers, all of the teachers are trying really hard. Some of the teachers by nature are able to incorporate things that I think are more engaging just because of their backgrounds. But all in all, I'm having a really hard time with watching how he's taking in this experience. And again, I know everybody's worked really hard. I just want to make sure you hear this side of it's not a long-term solution. And when we can go back and let's make sure we're starting to do everything we can do to get back safely. Our family owns a business, and to avoid bankruptcy, we had to do everything we could possibly do to reopen safely. And I just want to make sure that that's the mindset. And we'll take out of the box thinking and creativity. And I hear you. I want it to be safe. I just don't want it to get lost that, the distance learning is really difficult, maybe not for all the kids, but again, as a parent that can stay home and we're struggling this much with it, I can't even imagine for the kids that don't have that support system to help them with it. So I just didn't know if you had heard that from other people. One final thing I just wanted to mention was, I'm wondering if there's any way that New Brighton for the middle school kids could have some kind of after school athletic training the way a lot of the high schools are. I think that might help, like having something to look forward to where they can see their friends in a structured manner, in a safe manner. They can all bring their own basketball, but something like that I think would be a positive thing. So that was it. I appreciate the time and I appreciate everything that everybody's doing.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I appreciate those comments. I guess I would just summarize that I don't think we're that far apart, if we're apart at all. And specifically, the task force that we're forming can and will look at part of the cohorts being the after school conditioning, as you mentioned, that some high school athletic programs are doing. And it's just that question: what's more important, to bring students back on campus or to be safe? And the answer is yes, right? And so we're struggling with that same question. I think our goals are the same. But thank you for sharing. And I guess most importantly, I'm just really sorry that any of these COVID-19 impacts may have decreased your son's enthusiasm for learning. I hope that that's recoverable, because that's our joy and that's our mission as educators.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I don't think we have anybody else here who would like to comment at this time. And if not, then we're going to share the emails.
Yes. So this one is subject of board meeting tonight. And since this one is specifically for board meeting tonight, I'm going to read it as is, as it's written. So to whom it may concern, I am writing this email in regards to my concerns about school closures and lack of organization and non-planning to reopen our schools. My 4-year-old son, who has been seeing a speech therapist twice a week through Soquel Elementary School District since last December, has seemed to have been forgotten. When COVID hit last year, the schools seemed not to have a plan for him regarding his continuing speech therapy. There were some sight words that were emailed to us for continuing education at home, but not enough for any improvement. We are now currently enrolled twice a week through Zoom classes, which started September 10th for his continuing education regarding speech, but that's hard for a 4-year-old child to do. It's hard to keep him engaged, and there's been numerous times where he didn't want to interact with his teacher online and would just stare at the computer screen while his speech therapist tried to teach him a lesson. It's not efficient. My son's self-esteem, interaction with other children, and confidence is extremely low due to his lack of communication with others. It's very difficult for others to understand him, and he knows that. My son needs to be able to see his speech therapist one-on-one in person to have any growth with his development regarding speech. As each week goes by with non-in-person education, my son is getting further and further behind with his development in speech and ultimately damaging him with his lack of confidence as a person. It's been 7 whole months since these children have been out of school. As the director's example to me last week, the school district still does not have a plan as how to get these kids back in school. How do you not have a plan? This is truly unacceptable and unfair to the students that want to go back to school. And since it is an agenda item, I can just say that 4-year-olds and learning through a computer, it doesn't take it doesn't take an educator to know that it's a challenge. And so we're empathetic to the challenge that students have, and especially younger students have, and continue to work to see how we might be able to bring students in small groups first back. But again, to do it in a way that everybody feels is safe and can be confident in. I'm going to go to the next email now. Hi, Soquel Union School Board. My husband and I wrote you a letter that you read at the last board meeting. We still have not received answers to these questions. Please respond to these at this board meeting. Additionally, an article came out in the local newspaper, see attached. I hope this will be discussed. This is a crisis for our children. Distance learning does not work. I have talked to so many parents whose children have digressed, are crying daily, and have become antisocial. We need to get these children back at school. Why are other districts going back and not us? Why aren't the small pods being developed? They are allowed for under our tier. The parents need answers. Thank you for answering these questions. And so I don't have the letter from last time in front of me, but it seems like some of the questions are called out in the email. Why are other districts going back and not us? Every district is having to make those decisions locally. As I said in the meat of this item, the school districts in our county are working together to try to find ways to bring students back, but proceeding cautiously with safety in mind first. We've talked about the small cohorts and where we are with that. And again, we'll have town halls next week to continue the discussion.
And during the town hall also, there will be questions as well, too.
It'll be a large chunk of Q&A, yes.
Okay.
Let's see. This one is addressed for in-person learning. It came to a board member, and so I think we have to safely assume that this was meant for the board meeting. So it says, I have a son in 2nd grade and twins at Main Street and twins who are in TK at Santa Cruz Gardens. I have nothing but the utmost respect for our teachers and care deeply that they feel safe in an in-person classroom setting. I would never want my children to return to a teacher who did not feel safe, but have also heard from many teachers that they want to go back. Having said that, I'm also concerned for the well-being and mental health of my children and my family as a whole. I work from home, and managing distance learning of 3 children so young has presented problems that I could never have imagined. I also realize that we're the lucky ones and that many children are left in unsafe situations as their parents have no choice but to leave them to go to work. In my opinion, this will have long-term devastating effects on the children of our community. I would just like some clarity on the criteria of returning to in-person learning and to make sure that everything is being done to survey parents for their stance of in-person learning. Any insight on this would be appreciated. Thanks for your time. And so I think that I addressed most, if not all, of these topics, but I'll just say again that we share the goal of getting children back on campus. The idea of some of us being more fortunate than others is something that has sat deeply with our district team, and it comes out symbolically in programs like that was discussed tonight with scholarship offerings and that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that that's a cure-all, but just that we do have that mindset to serve families who need the support the most. And I think in terms of clarity, I'd like to think that I addressed that, and there's a certain level of clarity that we'd all would like that's not available to us right now, but have tried to at least chunk out the time and how we'll proceed in the best manner possible. But I understand the frustrations. I think the last one that I have that was intended for the board tonight was this one. Subject is "Yeah for Distance Learning." Dear SUESD board, we just wanted to let you know what a great job the teachers are doing during distance learning. While our son may miss being with friends, we do value the education he is receiving during this unprecedented time. Full-time distance learning provides a much more comprehensive education than what we would see with a hybrid model. The consistency and routine has been great for his continued development. Distance learning has provided our son with a great opportunity to take charge of his learning and become responsible for his own education, a great lesson during these trying times. Kudos to the teachers and staff who are teaching our kids independence, resiliency, and flexibility. Keep up the great work. And of course, I couldn't concur more that I think Jessica led off her section talking about how our teachers have developed their online platforms in ways, in the very best ways available. And so I concur, and perhaps if nothing else, these comments show the complexity and diversity of how folks are dealing with this challenge. And we know there's not a one-size-fits-all answer out there, and we'll continue to try to make flexible solutions available as they become available to us.
All right, thank you, Scott. And we'll be touching base on this at each meeting. Also, these emails, we could also insert them in the minutes without the names or email addresses as comments, because they're written documents, and it would be good to include any of the emails. And again, unless they want their name submitted, they could let you know, Scott, but otherwise we could just submit them without names or email addresses. Okay.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
When people come in person, if they make a comment, it's usually kind of summarized in the meeting, in the minutes, I believe, like a sentence or two. You know, a parent came and expressed concerns about da 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 da. It seems different to include entire emails in minutes. I mean, it's different. It's a different protocol than what we would do in a normal situation. I get this is totally different. I guess I'm thinking about
a happy medium in there, since the clump of emails certainly address some similar issues. I think that there would be a pretty tidy way to summarize them and still make sure that, as the one parent who came on in person said, that particular voice of the community is being heard.
And also to that is that, yes, it's different times now. We have people that can come in and verbally will express their opinion. Yes, it's summarized. However, we are reading a document or an email from them. So to make sure that their point is heard, that's why I'm suggesting to put an email or a summarizing the email into the minutes. And then they know that they have been heard.
Great. Yes, I'll work with Linda to make sure there's a good and fair, accurate summary.
Phil.
So would the rules on correspondence apply?
This is regarding an agenda item. And correspondence, from what I understand, is not items on the agenda, but mainly the correspondence that the board may receive that is not on the agenda item. Because if we receive a correspondence regarding an agenda item, then we would share it during that agenda item itself. Yes.
Yeah, and these certainly are unique times, and you know, who knew 7 months ago that this is what our board meeting would look like? So we all have had to adapt. But again, I'm confident that there's a easy middle ground there where we can make sure that the voice of these messages are loud and clear in the minutes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it is different times, and I think, like everything else, we're kind of thinking as we go along with new situations that do come up. I just want everybody to know that they're being heard. All right, any other discussion regarding this? If not, we'll move on to a first reading for board policy 4113 regarding assignments. And Scott, that's you.
Yes, so thanks to our personnel coordinator, Sandy Figueroa, we have this personnel related board policy. And this is based on teacher assignment. And while there is segments of it based on wordsmithing, and I say wordsmithing not to underplay the importance of it, but new terminology and changes in that vein, the gist of the reason we're bringing this is really related to that new law, which is now requiring a little bit more formal annual monitoring of certificated employees that may be working in a different assignment than what their background is, and that there'll be this statewide system to track that, and that districts will be notified of teachers in that situation, and will have a time period to report back on proving that it was that assignment was done within the legal requirements that we work in. And so that's really that new law is really the gist. You know, it's usually just for kind of reference sake. If some of the other items, like on page 1 of 4 at the very beginning, where we're changing, they are qualified pursuant to their certification. If it was just that, we probably wouldn't bring the item to the board, right? But while we're making this bigger change, these other items are typically cleaned up, and it all is based on CSBA recommendations. So there is some of those wordsmithing kind of items, but at the bottom of the first page of the policy, so page 1 of 4 of the policy, page 26 of the docket, really starts the meat of it on that last line of that page, where it starts to talk about the process for reporting and being notified through this new statewide system. And you will see a good chunk of that second page devoted to that process. So with that, I'll leave it open for board questions.
Okay, go ahead. Board members, anybody want to chime in on this one?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. I just want to say how thrilled I am that finally the gender specific pronouns here are being changed to the position, which is far too long to happen, and I'm just I know this is kind of a standard board policy change, but that's a good sign.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Jen, and that's it's really important, because that's what I mean is like sometimes wordsmithing is so much more than that, right? And so we'll see this reflected as we continuously update policies from here on. So thank you for noting that.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments, questions? If not, we're going to move on to public. Anybody out there in the public looking to chime in?
Nothing by text.
Nothing by email.
No one from Zoom.
Okay. All right, thank you. So with that, we'll go ahead and we're going to move on to where are we? Oh, 5D. And this is regarding board policy 0430. And actually, Eric Olson's going to take this on.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say thank you, Eric, for jumping right in. Our whole cabinet team contributes to the board policy update process. And so sometimes we kind of feed those through Jessica or Michelle or I. This time Eric is jumping right in with both feet. So take it away, Eric.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. And this board policy is an update, and it's on the comprehensive local plan for special education. And not too much has changed. It just looks like we need to reflect some of the requirements that were in the type of SELPA and participating districts. And I know there was a question on that, and it'll be on the bottom of the first page under comprehensive plans. I know there's a question about the districts that participate in a multi-district SELPA with the County Office of Education. That's kind of was in the parentheses as an option to pick from, so that should be taken out in the next reading, and appreciate that comment.
So that's
yeah.
just to be clear, that's the fourth line from the bottom of page 31 of the docket, correct?
Correct.
That'll be stricken from the second reading.
Yes, and it's detailed out in that bold sentence below about being part of a local plan and districts participating in that. And there's a few other things added in there, but it's basically reviewed. The local plan is basically a 136-page document that we have on our student services page on our website, and it's looked at every 3 years. What questions might you all have?
Okay, aboard. Go ahead, Phil.
What is the difference between bold, italics, and just bold regular?
Yeah, it was a formatting thing I was having trouble with, but it's supposed to be bold and italic. So yeah, those are just the new items.
It should all be bold italicized, then what you're saying, right?
Right.
It takes a couple whacks at it to get the hang of it, I'll be honest.
Okay, understood. All right, thanks, Phil. Are there any other questions or comments? Amanda?
I will honestly say I didn't fully understand the first clarification, what's going to be revised with the next reading. Is it that our SELPA is not with the COE? Is that what I'm understanding, or am I wrong?
No.
If I can, if you don't mind, Eric, I'll just take that one because I might have added to the confusion. So we indeed are. The content of that doesn't change. It's just spelled out. It wasn't, the fourth line from the bottom wasn't actually intended to be in the policy. It was a note to the policy
I get it.
writer.
It was like, that's what was in parentheses, and you
Yes.
figure out if you're inserting it. Okay, I was like, wait, what? What did I miss? Okay, thanks.
Sorry for the confusion.
Okay, any other questions, comments? No? Okay. Anything from the public?
Nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
No one from Zoom.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll just go to 5E, and this is going to be Eric regarding board policy 5141, infectious disease.
Yes, this one's in order to help update us on, just different, this is not COVID related, so it's just infectious diseases. And we want to make sure that we're updating those. And there was a few adjustments in there in the first paragraph that we're doing already. And it's neat to see that that we're on board with our plans and items that we're keeping students safe at school. And it's just some language that's better said in the updates, and then added different cross-referencing different policies. So yeah, the universal precautions were taken out, but right above that, there's a paragraph about, communicable disease outbreak or epidemic, and how we can handle that and be safe. We always love our Keenan videos that we watch, and that takes care of our bloodborne pathogens. And any questions on this one?
Or Phil.
So on page 36, universal precautions are stricken, but the next paragraph says that student staff shall observe universal precautions, so they won't know what those are, right?
Right. Yeah, they'll know what those are.
How?
Probably based on the Keenan training, but I think it's listed in another part of the section.
If you want, Phil, we can bring back, when we bring it back for a second reading, we can either more clearly spell it. If I'm understanding your question right, you're saying that the paragraph that's stricken on page 36 spells out the nature of universal precautions, and then later universal precautions is referred to. And so question is it clear what universal precautions are in the non-stricken text, or do we need to add something? That essentially the question. Okay. All right. Well, when we bring that for a second reading, we will either add something or we will be able to pinpoint clearly where they're defined.
Works for me.
Good question.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll just note that maybe it's ironic that in the very, very last thing that's stricken on page 38 is this U.S. government pandemic flu information website. I guess someone decided maybe we didn't need that, but that's just me. Not relevant.
Timing is irrelevant. Odd timing.
Yeah, it's up above in the bold part, U.S. Department, and it says pandemic influenza planning checklist. But yeah, maybe the website's changed.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe they took it down, but I'm just I'm just being silly. Sorry.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thanks for diving in.
Yeah, thank you.
And definitely will give you a good sense of how these things go for the future. Much appreciated.
Let's check with the public first to see if there's anybody out there in the public who wants to comment on this.
Nothing on email.
Sorry, nothing on text.
Okay.
No one on Zoom.
All right, very good. Thank you, Eric. All right, let's move on to 5F, which is a discussion regarding board policy 3471, parcel tax, and Michelle.
It's me. I finally get one tonight. I'm
yes,
very
you
do. Just on a quick personal note for 10 seconds of your time, I was just listening up here in the mountains. We still howl every night at 8 o'clock on the dot. So hundreds of my neighbors, you can hear them throughout the entire canyon. They're out there howling at the top of their lungs for our first responders and for everyone in the valley who's lost their home. So it's always so lovely to hear everyone out there singing for 10, 15 seconds.
That's
So
great.
So this evening, I am bringing to you guys, and I will admit, ironically timed, a new board policy on parcel tax. This was recommended by CSBA to have in place as a board policy. The policies and procedures in this new policy is everything that we have followed in the past, and nothing has changed regarding going out for a parcel tax or anything that rules that you have to follow for a parcel tax. Their recommendation now is just to have a board policy in place. And I felt it's better to put it in now than in the future leave that on to someone else who might not realize it's not in there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that it has to be a 2/3 of the vote to place for a resolution to place the parcel tax instead of the majority. And that's per government code.
Correct.
Yeah. 50077, which states? No, just kidding. All right, any other questions?
Bill.
Yeah.
So I just want to clarify that this is a new policy and not an update of something that occurred since our last adoption.
No, I'm sorry, that was my bad. The first sentence says update and the second sentence says new policy. That was my first go at a brand new policy, and I should have changed that wording, and that goes straight to what I tell my staff never to do, which is cut and paste.
All right, good point. If there's no other questions from the board or comments, public, anybody from the public?
Sorry. Oh. Nothing on email.
Okay.
Sorry, nothing on chat. Spaced out on you. Sorry, Ted.
It's fine, that's fine, yeah. Okay, and it sounds like, okay, we'll just, we're gonna move on to action items right now. And thank you, Michelle. All right, so let's, we're moving to 6A, consider approval of a MOU with the City of Capitola for out of school time program, OSD. Scott.
So Nikki did all the heavy lifting on this, so I won't, belabor the point, but it's obviously a program that was crafted with our school district community in mind, the very unique needs of our current situation in mind. You saw the pay structure, which I thought was wonderfully nuanced to wring out every dollar for every family in whatever way they can. And so the purpose of asking you to consider this MOU not to exceed $16,000 for the rest of the school year is to continue to contribute additional funds towards scholarships and that pay structure that you saw, so that families may have an even more affordable program. And that $98,000, deficit that she referenced, if I remember, it was $98,000, can be reduced as a community partner, and I would say a community partner that benefits greatly from this program that they had developed. And the $200 per student format just allows us to account properly for the funds in a way that will be in line with an audit. And so yeah, and learning loss mitigation funds are a perfect target for this project. Is a perfect expenditure in relation to learning loss mitigation funds.
All right, thank you, Scott. Are there any questions regarding the MOU? Okay.
I guess I just have a little comment because, I can't myself, but I thought I don't think I mentioned it when Nikki spoke, but I think it's really special and worth acknowledging, as she did in her presentation, that the foundation in Capitola raised $30,000 to go towards that. I believe 98,000. So to me, us being able to provide, up to $16,000 from our learning loss funds when they're voluntary contributions to a foundation is, almost double that. I think it's an absolutely reasonable request in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions from the board or comments? If not, then I'm going to ask if there's any public comment or questions.
Nothing on text. I was ready.
Nothing on email.
Nothing on Zoom.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to call for a motion to consider approval MOU with the City of Santa Cruz for out of school time OST. Phil moves. Okay. Second.
Second, Carolyn.
Carolyn seconds. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 It's all the aye. So everybody, I saw all the ayes. Any opposed? No. Okay. Thank you.
I
So
just
let's
really
try-
want to second and say thanks to the board for this. I think it serves our children, and it continues to reinforce the collaboration that's been developed between us and the city.
It's come quite a long ways.
I just want to mention that this sure does look like a GoFundMe kind of thing. Just saying.
You're going to make Michelle nervous with that.
Yeah.
Why you gotta say those words, Phil? Don't say those words.
Well, I just got an alert that the International Space Station is flying over. Too bad it's foggy out there. All right, so we are done with that action item. 6B, consider approval of the proposed district representatives to the SELPA Community Advisory Council. And Eric, I thought you were out of the woods, but you're got called back.
It's okay. Linda warned me, so it's good. You're so gentle with me with the other two. That was nice. Yes, this is great. I'm excited to share this. We've had 5 volunteers from our parent community. Usually we're trying to scrape for 1. And so I think the seller was meeting on Zooms and didn't have to drive to the county office for these meetings. But I'm excited to be able to share with you all that from our parent community, we have 5 that want to represent us at this CAC meeting. And we have Yvette Brooks, and she was with us last year. And so this will be her 2nd year. And then we have Devin Caroselli and Leah McGilvery, Andrea Cambridge, and Heather Carey all expressed interest. And they've been to 2 meetings so far, one on the 17th of September and one on the 29th. And they still wanted to come back for more. So I joined them on the 29th meeting, and they had some great questions and support given to them.
All right, thank you. Board, anybody have any questions, comments?
Thank you to the parent volunteers.
Yes. Thank you, as always. And if there's no other comments or questions, any public comments or questions out there in the world?
Nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
Nothing on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Hey, that was a perfect Hollywood square move right there, like all the way across. These squares keep moving on me, and I think somebody's over here, so I'm almost like a chameleon. All right, so let me see. I got to get back on task here. So is there a motion to approve our district representatives to the SELPA Community Advisory Council?
Jen, I'll make the motion.
Jen first, second.
I'll second, Amanda.
Amanda. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. It's like a doorbell chime. Aye, back forth. Okay, all are in favor, none opposed? Thank you. All right, let's move on to 6E, consider approval of board policy 1312, uniform complaint procedure. And this is a second reading, so we went over it at the last meeting. Are there any other questions or comments? Or I should ask Scott, he wants to present it.
No, I'm going right with your flow. You
Okay.
did a first reading last time and asking you to consider approving it this time.
And there's no changes, or we did make the changes suggested or whatever. Okay.
As is.
Okay, any questions from the board? If there is none, let's move on to public comments or questions.
Nothing from text.
Nothing from email.
Nothing from Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Let's I'm going to call for a motion to approve the board policy 1312.3 uniform complaint procedures. A motion on the floor.
I'll make the motion, Amanda.
Amanda first,
I'll second, Carolyn.
Carolyn seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. With that, let's move on to 6D, which is consider approval of board policy 4119, 4219, 4319, sexual harassment. This is also a second reading. And if there's anything you want to add, Scott?
Nothing to add, as presented last time.
Okay. Is there a motion, if there's any clarifying questions from the board? Nothing, okay. Any questions, comments from the public?
Nothing from text.
Nothing from email.
Nothing from Zoom.
Okay, with that, is there a motion on the floor to approve board policy 4119, 4219, 4319, sexual harassment?
Jen, I'll make the motion.
I'll second, Carolyn.
Jen first, Carolyn second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Let's move on to 6E. Consider approval of board policy 5145, sexual harassment. Again, this is a second reading. And if there's nothing to add, Scott?
Nothing to add.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board? If there's nothing out there, any comments or questions from the public?
Nothing from text.
Nothing from email.
Nothing from Zoom.
Okay, thank you. And with that, is there a motion on the floor to approve for the approval of board policy 5145, sexual harassment?
I'll make a motion, Carolyn.
Carolyn first,
I'll second, Amanda.
Amanda. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, any opposed? None. All are in favor? Perfect. Okay. With that, we're going to move to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence out there?
I think that would be for Linda. Everything else has been exhausted through the reading of the
Right.
emails from my end.
Right, okay, very good. Future agenda items. Does anybody have an item they would like to bring forward? Phil?
Yes, I'd like to see if the district would entertain a discussion item on climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. So we're going to be going into the power safety shut-off time. We're still in the fire time. And so this is a real thing, and I think we should have a discussion about that. Resilience. I think we should also have a discussion about what our impact is, our carbon impact is.
Linda, did you catch those words precisely?
No, Ted, could you tell me again? Climate change, mitigation, and
Adaptation.
adaptation.
Right.
If there's any additions or anything else there, Phil, go ahead and feel free to email Scott with that too. Okay, thank you. That's a good one, actually. If there's no other future agenda items to bring forward, let's go for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a first on the floor? Jen first,
Carolyn second.
Carolyn second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. This meeting is officially adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
We'll be getting the special board meeting agenda out really soon, so we'll be all set for next Wednesday.
For next Wednesday.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you,
everybody.
team.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks for all your work too.
Thanks, George. You gonna play guitar?
Yeah, George, rock on.
I mean, it had to be said. Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night. Oh, okay. Good night.